सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै. Let's continue our discussion on Kathopanishad. Last week the recording at the Mandir was not proper. Somehow it got deleted, and so I need to re-record just for the continuation. So we were at third vallI of Pratham adHyAya of Kathopanishad and sHloka 6. Yastu vijnanavan bhavati yuktena manasa sada tasyendriyani vashyani sadashva ivasarathehi. Meaning is, but he who has discrimination and whose mind is always controlled, his senses are like good, tamed horses of a charioteer. Next shloka, 7th. Yastva vijnana van bhavatya manaskah sada shuchihi nasa tad padam apnoti sansaram chadigacchati. He who has no understanding, no discrimination, and whose mind is always impure, he does not reach the sought after state but falls down into sansara again and again. We were talking about how to control the senses and basically following the Ashtanga Yoga. But at the same time, it alone is very hard to follow. Ashtanga Yoga, as we know, it has 8 different limbs: Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. Now, following all these, one even takes more than a lifetime. So, it is usually said that don't follow only one thing, follow 4 different paths all together: Jnana, Kriya, Karma and Bhakti. So Jnana is knowledge about Brahma or Paramatma, and Karma, doing everything on behalf of Brahma or Paramatma and offering all the results to Paramatma or Parabrahma or Brahma in that sense. And Kriya is following Ashtanga Yoga so that we can be in union with Brahma, Parabrahma or Paramatma. And Bhakti is total devotion or surrender in all of our actions, in all of our thoughts to Paramatma, Parabrahma. So we need all 4, and we were discussing about it, and the question was about where is the reference, who talks about it. If we read Bhagavad Gita, adHyaya 5th, 6th and 7th all together, then we get a sense that Sri Krishna also, he did not name them as Gnana, Kriya, Karma and Bhakti, but that's what exactly he meant, that we must have all these together in our practices, in our experiences, and it makes the path easy, very easy, I would say, the easiest path, because it's a combination of all 4, and whatever lacks in one aspect can be compensated by the others. Why I am saying that? See, we all think that Bhagavad Gita has many different paths that lead to Parabrahma, Paramatma. True, but remember, Krishna did not divide Bhagavad Gita into 18 chapters or 18 adhyayas. It is Veda Vyasa, though he is considered Bhagavan also, one of the sub-avatars of Narayana. But again, that was his division. Whereas Krishna, he was standing in the battlefield as a charioteer and was discussing with Arjuna. So this is a dialogue. That dialogue does not end somewhere and does not start somewhere. Krishna did not say, okay, this is adhyaya 1, this is adhyaya 2, this is adhyaya 3, or this begins with adhyaya 3 now and this ends the third adhyaya. He didn't say that. He was just continuously in the conversation. He was continuously teaching Arjuna, answering his questions. So if we read adhyaya, what we find usually, adhyaya 5th, 6th and 7th. If we read all these three together, then we'll get a sense that Krishna is talking about following all the different paths together. Jnana, Kriya, Karma and Bhakti. And these two shlokas of Kathopanishad, they are more geared towards Kriya, Ashtanga Yoga. So if somebody is impure by impurity of thoughts and senses, what is being impure? We must question. Impurity is not thinking about Parabrahma or Paramatma, or not offering all the thoughts to Parabrahma or Paramatma. See, we can deliberately offer something to Parabrahma. Sometimes we miss, sometimes we are successful. That means we are impure. If all of our actions, if all of our thoughts, if anything we do, we have that sense of awareness of doing on behalf of Paramatma and offering everything to Paramatma, then we are pure. Till then, we are impure. So whoever is impure does not reach this state, the state of union with Atma, and that way knowing Brahma and Parabrahma. Where in one sense Brahma pervades everything, and Ansha of Brahma is Atma, and Brahma is Paramatma or Parabrahma. But sometimes in the Shastras we see some distinction. The portion of Parabrahma or Paramatma is beyond everything. But when it pervades this world, which is made up of physical elements and energy particles, when it pervades all this, it is called Brahma. It's like saying, I have heart, I have kidneys, I have lungs, I have mind, and there are various actions happening within my body which keeps my body warm. There are electrical signals happening from my mind to various sensory organs. So all these, are they me? Can they define myself? Yes, everything is happening within me, but they can also be little distinct. When I say heart versus lungs, even though it belongs to me, they are separate organs in the body. So that way, there is a slight difference between Brahma and Parabrahma. Part of Parabrahma that pervades this world is Brahma, and an iota, ansha of that is Atma. So that state of union with Atma, Atma Sakshatkar, enlightenment, when somebody is impure, cannot get that experience, is what Rishi is saying here. Next shloka, Yastu Vijnana Van Bhavati Samanaskaha Sada Shuchihi Satut Padam Apnoti Yasmadyo Na Jayate. But he who has the understanding, who has discrimination, and whose mind is pure, he reaches the sought after state after which he is not born again. Now, it is said that when we reach the state of union, unison, Atma Sakshatkar, we do not come back. But we can see from examples in various stories found in Puranas, Brahmanas, or even in Rigveda and many other Vedas. So, Atma Sakshatkar is just the first step. There are many things to achieve after that. So, the state Rishi is talking about here is the ultimate state. After that, there is no difference between birth and death. Whether you are born or not, whether there is death or not, it does not make any difference. In that sense, a person is not born again. Next, Vijnana Sarathir Yastu Manah Pragraha Vannarah Soadvanah Paramapnoti Tad Vishnoho Paramam Padam. The man who is a charioteer with discerning intelligence and a well-known, well-controlled mind, he reaches that final sound Om, that most supreme state of Vishnu. Now here important words, Vishnoho Paramam Padam, and that is a dhvani, sound Om. Omkara is said to have pervaded all the audible frequency range. When we say audible frequency range, it's 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz. All that sound that is in that range can be heard by humans. Other animals can hear lower frequency or higher frequencies. But for humans, it is said theoretical limit is 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz. But then again, we are individuals and our abilities of listening certain things is different. And it is said, many people have done experiments with Omkara, and they found that when we keep repeating Omkara continuously, it spans across the whole audible spectrum. That means it's like a white noise. White noise is there is a continuous sound that is pervading our background. So Omkara is like that. Noise is a technical term, so don't be disheartened by that. But when we compare in technical terms, that's what it is called. So Omkara, when we repetitively speak or say, it becomes, it spans across the whole spectrum of audible range. See, when a flute is being played, it is high pitch. That means it has higher frequency, say 10,000 Hz. When a drum is played, it has lower frequency, say 300, 500 Hz. So now you can imagine the sound between drum versus flute. They have different frequencies. But Omkara, when repetitively is spoken, japa, then it includes all these frequencies. So that sound is Tad Vishnoho Paramam Padam. One, when controls the mind, then whatever we hear, whatever we listen, there is a background noise beyond that, which is a collection of all the frequencies, because around us many noises are occurring, right? Many sounds are occurring. I wouldn't use that word noise. Many sounds are occurring, but we don't hear, we don't listen them. Even if we concentrate our mind, when we focus, even then we hear certain sounds, but not beyond those. So to attune our mind, see, ultimately ear just collects the sound waves and vibrates eardrums, and that vibration creates electrical signals in our nervous system. So those nerves carry these electrical signals from our back of the ear to mind, and mind decides, oh, this is this sound versus that sound. So once we reach that stage when our mind is controlled and we progress, reach the state of intense dhyana, samadhi, then we listen. When we hear this sound Om. Many yogis have experienced that. It is called Brahmandiya Laya, Nada Brahma. So, there is vacuum throughout the universe. There are particles. The audible noise, audible sound requires physical particles. And when those particles vibrate, that create noise. But light or like heat coming out of sun as radiation, they do not create any sound because they are electromagnetic waves. We cannot hear them. So outside our atmosphere there is vacuum and we cannot hear anything. Otherwise we could be hearing the blast happening on the sun, which doesn't happen because sound does not spread in vacuum. Even though there are particles spread across in the vacuum, because there is a minimum temperature throughout the universe, it's 3 degree Kelvin minus 270 degrees Celsius. That means there are some particles which vibrate and they create some radiation or they reflect some rays, electromagnetic waves, but it does not mean they can create sound. So that Nad Brahma is the concept of our physical world, and we can hear that when our mind is attuned, it is controlled. So whatever is happening within us or outside us, we can hear those sounds, and when all these frequencies combine, they kind of create Omkar, and that's one of the indications of where we reached in our sadhana. That is the indication of how much we have progressed. And it is also called the most supreme state of Vishnu, Vishnoho Paramam Padam. See, Vishnu, adHyAya Upanishad, and at many places in Rigveda, we can clearly see that Vishnu is Surya, Aditya, sun, source of energy, sustainer of solar system including earth, and by that means sun is also source of energy for all the beings on earth. So for us, Surya is representation of Parabrahma, Paramatma, God, and for us it's Pratyaksha Deva. And in adHyAya Upanishad, which talks about 33 Koti Devas, there are 12 Adityas, and these Adityas are 12 months of the year, Samvatsara. So each month is one Aditya, and they have different names, and one of the Adityas is Vishnu. And in Vedas, especially Rigveda, when we read about many suktas attributed to Vishnu, we can clearly see that Rishi talks about Surya, the sun, the characteristics. And so Vishnu Paramam Padam, Vishnu also called Trivikram in Rigveda. That means conquering 3 different worlds in 3 steps. If we look at Rigveda about 3 lokas, they talk about Prithvi, then atmosphere, and then space beyond. So Bhur, Bhuvaha, Swaha. Bhurloka, Svarloka, and beyond that, Dyoloka or Dyu. So these are 3 different lokas. Even we can experience that, right? In our everyday life. We are on earth, that is our loka, Bhuloka, and atmosphere that sustain life on this earth, it is second loka. And when satellites or spaceships go beyond 36,000 kilometers or so from the earth, they are kind of venturing in the space. So that space, for us, the biggest radiation is generated by the sun. And so imagine that it's like a big web woven by rays of the sun. The stars are very far away. So those rays, even though reach our atmosphere or space beyond, but biggest radiation we get is from the sun. So our space, the third loka, is covered by the sun. So sun is Trivikrama Vishnu. And Paramapada, Now, what is Paramapada? Which is the source. See, for us, we are at the receiving end of the sun rays. So, we are at the end, from our end, in the middle, somewhere, not in the middle, but closer to us is atmosphere, because there is dispersion happening in the atmosphere, and that's why we see bright sky. If we were on the moon, which does not have atmosphere, we would see sun as a big bright lamp, nothing more than that. But when we look at our sky on the earth, we see blue sky, and it's very bright, shiny. It's because of atmosphere, because the sun rays, when they reflect in the atmospheric particles, they kind of disperse and create this effect. So that's our second loka. And the third loka, the biggest part from the sun to us, is the space. Excuse me. So the rays are originating from the sun, and from sun they are reaching us. So Paramapada is the source. That means what is happening within the sun, we can feel that, we can understand that. So Rishi is indicating that once we reach that state of Atma Sakshatkar, we kind of reach that source of light, source of energy. And for us, source of energy or source of inspiration is our Atman, our Atma. And it is said that Atma is covered with bright light. It's a sphere of bright light. Once we experience that, once we go beyond that, that is for us in our body, in our existence, that is our Paramapada. So sun is representing our Atma in this sense. And once we have that Atma Sakshatkar, then we reach the final or the ultimate Pada, Vishnu Paramam Pada, and then our journey starts. 10th shloka. Indriyebhyah para yathar athabhyishcha param manah manasastu para buddhi buddhir atma mahan paraha. Higher than the senses are the objects sought. Higher than objects is the mind. Higher than the mind is intellect. Higher than the intellect is the great self. Now this is different states of our experience. Senses, sense organs like eyes, ears, nose, our jiva, tongue, touch through skin. So all these are senses, and senses carry electrical signals to the mind. Now mind then discerns and creates or reflects on that and tells us this is what is happening. When we look at certain thing, the waves, the light falls on our eyes, and eyes carry those signals, and mind creates the image. And so in that sense, it is said that object is higher than the senses, meaning deeper. Higher meaning nothing above, but it's within, so it's deeper. And higher than the objects is mind, because mind ultimately tells us what it is. See, biggest example is when any object reflects on our eyes, it is upside down, because our eyes have small lenses. You can do experiment. In school days, we would hold the magnifying glass against a piece of paper and would reflect the tree outside the window, right? So the tree would appear as upside down, and that is exactly what is happening in our eyeballs. But the signal carried to mind. Now mind decides, okay, it's upside down, it's going to be upside down, so see it again 180 degree turned. so we see it as it is. The tree, the root is down and the leaves and branches are upward. So mind is greater than the object, because mind tells us, mind gives us the impression that what you are seeing is upside down, so I am going to turn it around. So mind is higher than that. And again, intellect is even higher than the mind. Mind is nothing but collection of memory and experiences. So based on the memory and experience, intellect decides what is right, what is not, what we should do, and what we have done so far. And whether it is right or wrong, depending upon how we are brought up, there are many impressions over many experiences from our birth. There are some genetic codes also that come into play. There are various factors like that. Even some chemicals put into our brain, in our body, that can also reflect. So that creates the analytical power and that act on the mind. And that's why it is said intellect is higher or deeper than mind. But there is something, the greatest, highest, the deepest is Atma, because Atma gives impression, Atma gives inspiration to all these activities without even if we don't know. The biggest example is sleep. When we sleep, our subconscious mind is active, and that subconscious mind is programmed by our genetic code. But again, if we go into coma, certain activities might not be happening depending upon what happened to that particular part of the brain. So that is just the controlling part of it. But we are still alive. So there is something happening within us that controls our subconscious mind. So that is our Atma. And that Atma is the highest, the deepest, and something to seek after. But again, that is the first step, right? 11th shloka. Mahatah parama vyakta mavyaktat purushah parah purushanna param kinchitsa kasthasa paragatihi. Higher than the greatest is the unmanifest. Higher than the unmanifest is Purusha. Nothing is higher than consciousness. That is the final aim. That is the highest goal. Again, the Atma, knowing Atma or Atma Sakshatkar is the deepest for us. But that is first step. Once we know Atma, we know there is something higher than that, and that is Avyakta, which is unmanifested. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that this world comes into manifestation from Avyakta, unmanifested, and goes back to Avyakta, unmanifested. So that is even higher state. And that's why that higher state of unmanifest, which we call, see, Atma is a sheath. Atma is covered by Tri Gunatmika Maya. And that's why it is called Jiva. If we know Atma beyond that cover of Maya, that is Atma Sakshatkar, knowing it in its purest form, and then the adventure starts. What we come across next is unmanifested, Akriya, Avyakta, which is just an observer. And that observer, where it resides, decides how we experience, how we act in this world. See, some people would like food very much. Even though there is no hereditary trait, we cannot prove. Somebody likes music more, somebody likes dance more, somebody likes sitting idle, lazy, being lazy more. Somebody would like to spend time in laboratory. So these are all governed by that observer, where it sits and observing, unmanifested. And higher than that is Purusha. Purusha is Purihi Shayanata. That's what it is said. the ansha of Paramatma, Parabrahma, that is Atma. But that Atma, it is like a sleeping entity within this Guhya area, this spiritual heart, that space. And once that Purusha, as long as that Purusha keeps sleeping there or somewhere, there is, I talked about circles, right? We are all like circles. We are circles. Imagine that I have a center of that circle. You have a center of that circle. All of us have different centers of the different circles. But these circles don't have boundary, don't have perimeter. So these circles, how they interact. So that center is Purusha. As long as that center exists, we come back to life. So that has to be our experience, which is higher than avyakta, unmanifest. And nothing is higher than consciousness. That is the final aim. That is the highest goal. Right? 12th shloka. Esha sarveshu bhuteshu gudo atma na prakashyate drishyate tvagreya buddhya sukshmaya sukshmadarshibhihi. This self is hidden in all beings and does not shine forth obviously, but it is perceived by those seers with the keenest of keen perceptions and the sharpest intellects. So whatever we can do, see, it is unobservable, it does not manifest, it is sleeping. So how can we know? The tool is, it does not even shine, right? So how can we perceive? So the rishis or those people, those higher humans, they created the perception, they made it very sharp with Gnan, Karma, Kriya and Bhakti. Then even their intellect has become very sharp. Sharp meaning neti, 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 or iti, iti, iti. These are the Brahma Vakyas, right? One of the Brahma Vakyas. Neti meaning this is not that, this is not that, this is not that, this is not that. And if we keep doing that, we reach Brahma ultimately. The other way around, this is that, this is that, this is that. So everything is Brahma. We also reach Brahma ultimately. But saying it versus feeling it. Feeling includes the analytical power. So we have to make our knife of intellect very sharp and understand these experiences. So these are two steps we can take, which are integral to Ashtanga Yoga as well. Yachedvan manasi prajnastadhyached jnana atmani jnanam atmani mahati niyachetadyachechat atmani. 13th shloka. Surrender the mind unto the intellect, surrender the intellect unto self-knowledge, surrender knowledge unto the great self, then surrender the great self unto the peaceful self. These are different havan. Havan is what? Offering something to Agni. And Sri Krishna mentioned many havans in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And again here Rishi is talking about something similar. So take our mind, put it into the fire of intellect. So go beyond mind. That's what it is saying. That don't stop at your memory, don't stop at your animal reflex. Right? The mind is like memory, experience and action. Memory based on experience, do certain action. So that is our mind. But intellect will tell us whether that action is right or wrong. We create some distance. So offer mind to intellect and then intellect to knowledge of self. So journey of going beyond intellect is once we understand the intellect, once we observe, once we create that experience, how intellect affects our mind or actions taken by mind. So once we do that, we go beyond that. And dharana, dhyan, they help greatly. And once we reach the self, surrender the self into great self, meaning that knowledge, offer that to the self and offer that self into peaceful self, which is Purush. So our body activities, mind, then intellect to the knowledge of self or Atma, and offer that Gnan of Atma to Purusha, which is Brahma, and once we reach that, which is peaceful Brahma, peaceful self, that is Purusha, which has been sleeping in our Guhya, and that is the center of our existence. Once we know that, once we know that center has one periphery, and that periphery is where Atma is, which is very close to the center, and it is part of the center, you can say. When we say center, think of it as a circle without a boundary. Imagine that is infinite, that is eternal, and the center is within our Guhya, but the center, say it is somewhat thick point. So thick point has two things. It has it looks like a small circle, very small circle, but it is a circle. And then there is a center of that small circle also, which is very, very tiny, very microscopic. So that microscopic, which is ultra microscopic, that is Purusha. But that small circle, that dot itself is small circle, right? And that is our Atma, we can say. Now 14th shloka, which was popularized by Swami Vivekananda, you all must have heard that. Uttishtata jagrata prapya varanni bodhata shurasya dhara nishita duratyaya durgam pathastakta vayovadanti. Arise, awake and obtain true understanding of God, like the edge of the razor at night, unfathomable, difficult is the path, so say the wise. So this path is very difficult. How difficult? Imagine that it's night, dark, and on your roads, the road is made up of razor sharp knife, and you are walking. So it is that difficult. But Uttishtata jagrata prapya varanni bodhat. Arise, awake. Be aware. Keep walking. Keep following. Keep chasing your ultimate goal in life. And that will make sure Yogakshemam Vahamyam. That's what Krishna said in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Once you walk, once you follow, Parabrahma, Paramatma will take care of our well-being. So even though the path is very difficult, very durgam, Parabrahma will help us crossing that smoothly. But our job is to arise, awake, and keep working. Uttishtata jagrata prapya varanni bodhat. 15th shloka. Ashabdam sparsham rupa mavya yantata arasam nityam gandha vachayat anadyanantam mahatah param dhruvam nichaya tan mrityu mukhat pramuchyate. That which is without sound, without touch, without form, without taste, without smell, that which is eternal, without a beginning, without end, that which is beyond the greatest, is unchanging. On knowing that, it is said, one is freed from mouth of death. So this is a trick to move away from the mouth of death, Yam Dvar or Yam Pash. How we can be liberated from that? Well, that state or that entity is, it does not have any sound, it does not have any form, it does not have any touch, it does not have any smell or taste or whatever the senses we have around us. It doesn't have that. But it is eternal. That means it is without beginning and without end, which is beyond greatest, and it is unchanging. It is inert, akriya, doesn't do anything. It is always there. It is never going to end. Beyond beginning and end. All of our mind activities or actions are governed with this sense of beginning and end, beginning and end, beginning and end. How long the period is, even beginning of the universe, 13 billion years. But still we think in terms of beginning and end at some time. Sun, it began at some time, meaning it was born at some time and ended it will going to end sometime. But again, our notion is beginning and end, Janma, Mrityu. We are not thinking beyond that. We cannot think. Once we start thinking about it, that is knowing Parabrahma. And once we do that, we are freed from the clutches of death. If there is death, it doesn't make any difference to us. Whatever happens, happens. Birth or death, they are just different states. 16th Shloka. Nachiketa mupakhya nan mrityu proktam sanatanam uktva shrutva cha medhavi brahmaloke mahayite. The intelligent one who hears or tells the timeless story of Nachiketa is told by the Lord of Death attains the word of Brahma. So this is a blessing from the Rishi. What Rishi is saying, even by listening this story of Nachiketa and Yama, that is, once you listen, you already taken first step. Now there is no turning back. Even though you did not do it willingly, even though you did not start your sadhana willingly, as soon as you listen to this story of Nachiketa and Yama, you have taken first step towards your sadhana, towards your path to Brahma, and you will reach Brahmaloka. Brahmaloka is not something outside. Again, loka, we always think about physical lokas, Chandra loka, Surya loka, Prithvi loka, Swarga loka, all these lokas in physical nature. No, Brahmaloka is within. We have to find that center, that very tiny, very ultra tiny center, that is Purusha. Once we reach there, it is Brahmaloka. Our Atma, once we do Atma Sakshatkar, we are already in that periphery. How? It's like moon rotating around the earth. Even though it is very small, even though that rotation, that distance between moon and the earth is very small compared to distance between earth and sun. But still, once we are on the moon, we will keep rotating around the earth. That means replace earth with that center, Purusha, Brahma, and our Atma as moon, which is rotating in that periphery. So we already are next to that center. So we already start benefiting of Brahma. We already are in the vicinity of Brahma. Ultimately we will be Brahma. 17th Shloka. Ya imam paramam guhyam shravayed brahma sansadi prayatah shraddha kale va tadanantyaya kalpate iti. Who recites this supreme secret before a gathering of Brahmans at the time of Shraddha, he is fit for immortality. He certainly reaches immortality. Once we listen to this story, we already walked the path, is what Rishi said earlier. Now Rishi is saying, okay, do the part, recitation on Shraddha. Shraddha is Pitru Tarpan. When somebody is passed away, we follow certain rituals and we arpan Pindadana, Shraddha, right? Doing with the Shraddha, Vishwas, trust. So during that Shraddha, and when Brahma Sansad, it has multiple meanings. It could mean Brahman. Sansada means multiple of Brahmanas. When they are sitting, you start reciting or listening to this story of Nachiketa and Yama. And second is Brahma Sansad is Brahma, Atma, Maya, Avran, that is Jiva. So they all consist of Brahma Sansad. So recite this path Nachiketa, meaning follow the sadhana, remember the story and try to follow what is said and go near that Brahma Sansad. So keep repeating, keep following your sadhana, do regular practices is what is implied here. And it could also mean that during Shraddha Paksha, there is a Paksha, 15 days every year we do Shraddha Paksha, Bhadrapada Masa, right? And during that time also recite Nachiketa and Yama story. That is also going to benefit. Again, repetition, so that you don't forget, you don't waver from your target, your goal. And only through abhyasa we can master that. Katha Prathama-adhyaya Tritiya vallI. So we completed Tritiya vallI and we'll continue adhyaya 2 from next week onwards. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamujachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi.